Nice to have you with me here on The Doctor Is In.
You have always been a voice of reason through all of this.
Appreciate your time, what you're doing for America.
I give you advice, and it doesn't work at all.
You are definitely not inept by any means.
I like to hear women say that about me.
Whatever advice you're going to send my way, I am 100% taking it.
I can't tell you what to do. I will not tell you what to do.
Okay. Well, thanks.
That wasn't the answer I wanted.
Are you kidding me?
Great stuff, Dr. Ray. I'm glad I called.
I've scheduled my day around listening to your radio show.
You don't have to laugh so hard.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Very nice to be back with you in the studio on solid ground. People ask me about these cruises. Two things I noticed. A lot of water and a lot of food. You eat about every 9 minutes. I got a little tired. At 4 a.m., we get the announcement, we have the pre-breakfast buffet. Please make sure you're down there by 5 a.m. because the breakfast buffet will start at 7. And, of course, you then eat, but then you have the pre-luncheon buffet. And I'm thinking, well, what would happen? I asked the guy, I said, what would happen if we hit an iceberg and started to sink? Now, it was really hard to hit an iceberg down the Caribbean, but for the sake of the joke. He said, well, we have a lifeboat buffet. Now, I'm trying not to be offended. I was listed on the program as the morning digestive period. You know, Teresa and some of the others were listed as, speaker number 1 and group therapy speaker and all this stuff. Fancy titles all over the place. Me, I was digestive period. But I noticed when we came back into port, you have to walk this gangplank, that goes back and forth like a wraparound kind of thing. And I think there's like three upgrades you have to go on. When we came back in port, there was only one. Yeah, ship was sitting pretty low in the water. Now, my weight from, say, college to last week has pretty much hovered between 165 and 175. It's pretty much stayed there the whole time. I'm now 262. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to cut back here a little bit. But if you're a weightlifter, weight is strength. So at 262, I should be able to do a little better in the weight room. But I figured it this way: I was going to eat my money's worth. A couple of times, some of the guys in the buffet that ran that thing, they had the head waiter D or whatever come over and just kind of stare at me. He didn't say anything. I said, "How long are you going to be here?" I said, "Well, I just got here at 8 a.m. He goes, yeah, it's 4 p.m. I said, yeah, I know. I just kind of wanted to hit breakfast, lunch, and then I'm waiting for supper. Oh, they cordoned off my area of the buffet. Anyway, enough of that jocularity and jocundity. The number to get on to the program, 877-573-7825. I'm Dr. Ray Guarendi. The program is The Doctor Is In. Taking your questions, your comments, your helpfulness, your suggestions, your particular questions, your generic questions about life, about stuff, about things that matter to you or things that don't matter to you that you think should matter to you, one way or t'other. So, I certainly want to hear from you. I'm back in the studio here, and I'm not rocking back and forth. So, given all that, again, the number is 877-57-EQUAL. I'm looking at the calendar here, and it is 2 weeks, roughly, 2 weeks and 1 day, that we will be down in Ave Maria University land in Florida. We will be taping 4 shows of Living Right with Dr. Ray. The shows are at 5:30 and 7:15 both nights. I am now on the sign-up site. It is an Eventbrite, event as in event, and Bright as B-R-I-T-E. I don't know why they spell stuff that way. It's just kind of like to be cute, I guess. Eventbrite. gmail.com. It says here, participate in a live studio audience Dr. Ray show filming under 14 with parent or legal guardian. And then it's just very simple. Very, very simple. Select your date and time. Tuesday, January 28th at 5:30, 7:15, or Wednesday, 29th, 5:30, 7:15. And it is at the, you don't have to remember all this because it's on the site. Bob Thomas Student Union, first floor. It's free. You can come to one, you can come to two, you can come to all four if you wish. The audience makes the show. The audience asks questions. The audience claps when they're supposed to, when they're told to. Some of them don't listen. So we have to retake it again because they're not clapping. Sometimes we pay them to clap. We do what we got to do. Tom Monahan will be there. President Mark Middendorf. A wonderful guest we've had on the show before, Chris Aubert, has a wonderful story about being a guy and pro-life. Let's see. These will air in 2025. And it looks like we're getting some nice crowds. So that's wonderful. Eventbrite, BRITE.com. All right, some calls are backing up there, and I'm gonna get to you, and I thank you for your patience as I ramble on. Had a couple of grandparents call me. Oh, this was years ago, probably. Now, yeah. And they had been contacted, and I don't know if they had custody of their little 9-year-old granddaughter or they had just heard about this from their little 9-year-old granddaughter, that the teacher, and this was always a phrase I used to make fun of, had some concerns about her adjustment. Oh, you got to be thinking, what could that be? Concerns about her adjustment. They had this is at the end of the year, they had an all-school track and field event, games event type thing. And they ran a race. And, of course, being very, very enlightened, everybody who ran the race got a trophy. That's right. There was nobody faster than anybody else. They just got a trophy. I think that's the way we had to do the NFL, you know. Just take anybody. You're a lot slower than that guy, but I don't think it's fair that he gets to make millions and you don't. So we're just going to make it so everybody has to run the 40 in 4.7 if you're a running back. You can't run any faster than 4.7. So what was their concern about this girl? Did she throw a fit? Did she say, I want a bigger trophy? Did she say, I'm not going to run? No. She went to the teacher and she said, I don't want this trophy. I didn't win it. I'm not very fast. And that's okay. The teacher could have said, wow, that's a lot of maturity for a little 9-year-old girl. No. She worried about the girl's developing self-image. Something might be wrong here, where she was turning her trophy back in. This is some kind of self-deprecatory move here. Grandparents called me. And they said, I don't know, do we need to get her therapy? I said, therapy for what? Is there any other problems? Oh, no, she's a delightful little girl. How's she do in school? Oh, she does wonderful. Seem pretty happy? Oh, yeah, she's a very happy little girl. Very mature for her age. And I said, yeah, I think so, given what you just told me. But you see how deeply ingrained this nutty attitude is about self-image being the preeminent moral virtue, that even when you are realistic about your talents and your liabilities, even when you're realistic, which I think is proper self-image, they questioned her adjustment. Huh? I am very willing to admit I could not hit an 80-mile-an-hour fastball, much less a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. I couldn't get the bat off my shoulders, and that thing would be in the catcher's mitt. I'm also willing to admit that if I played chess against somebody who really knew what they were doing, they'd kill me. Can't do it. At this point, if I ran a race, I'm done. My 40 would probably be about 5'8", if that. I got a whole bunch of things I don't do very well. Not the least is this radio show. But they're still paying me. They'll discover it one of these days. True self-image is saying, this is the talents God gave me. This is the things I don't do well. And it's interesting, too, because Christians have a unique view of self-image. How can you have a strong self-image on one hand, but on the other say, I'm a sinner, and I will always be a sinner? Huh? That's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say, I'm wonderful. You're supposed to say, I'm really, really special. You're supposed to say, there's nobody like me. There's no flower in the garden that's as beautiful as I am. That's what you're supposed to say. So how do you reconcile this? Because let God do it. Yeah, we're sinners. But true self-image, when the Creator of the universe says, you are infinitely valuable, you know that? And there's nothing you can do to lower that value in my eyes. Nothing. Yeah, you can sin. I know that. Repent. Keep trying. But your value is innate. I gave it to you. If Ray Guarendi says Ray Guarendi is a wonderful human being, what does that mean? It kind of all depends upon Ray Guarendi's judgment. I'm proud of that little girl. I don't know where she is now. She's probably in her 20s. I'm hoping she kept that attitude with her throughout her teen years. 877-573-7825. 877-57-equal. Be right back.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
I'm Jack Crisula. Please join us Tuesday, January 21st, 6:30 p.m. at St. John's Resort for the Rosary, followed by a speech by Father Zaid Chaban entitled, The Joy of the Lord is My Strength, Being Joyful Witnesses in a Gloomy World. Father Chaban is a member of the team of priests who pastor the shrine of the Little Flower Basilica. No registration is required. For more information, please email jack.crisula, Krasula, at trustinus.com. Thank you and God bless.
We are the pro-life generation, passionate about building the culture of life in our healthcare and in our nation. But not all healthcare options are equally pro-life, and some provide morally objectionable procedures. CMF Curo is different. CMF Curo is a pro-life Catholic healthcare ministry providing a pathway for its members to build the culture of life in their healthcare choices, not destroy it. Learn more about CMF Curo at mycatholichealthcare.com. That's mycatholichealthcare.com. This program brought to you in part by the town of Ave Maria, Florida.
Ave Maria, a big kind of small town. A golf cart friendly, ride your bike everywhere kind of town with something for everyone. Resort style amenities, 2 golf courses, shopping, and dining in our town center. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at the core of the community and a wide range of homes to meet your family's needs. Visitors are welcome. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. Ave Maria, a big kind of small town.
877-573-7825, and I did something I don't normally do, and I just caught myself. You know why? Because it was a mindless remark. I said, I'll be right back. You didn't need to hear that. I don't think there was a single person listening that thought, I wonder if he's going to be right back. All right, let's go to Josh from Austin, Texas. Wants me to save him some money. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Ray. I just want to first say God bless you and thank you for bringing comedy to Catholic ears.
Oh, well, appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate that. On the Good News Cruise, I guess they had a comedian last year that they wanted to switch up, so they booked me to do 3 comedy sessions. Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm confident in your ability.
Thanks. What's up here?
So my dad and mom caused a major financial loss in my life, which I can go into if you like. But otherwise, I'll simply say that as a result of that financial loss, I asked for the forgiveness of a loan from them, which I've been slowly paying off. I asked my dad to think over my request in one phone call and later call me back in his own time. I asked him that thinking that he would consult with my mom because it's such an important financial decision.
Did he call you back?
He called me back. He offered forgiving half of the loan, though I think that valuation is unfair.
How much is the loan?
The loan is originally it was about $24,000. I may have paid off about 4 of that at this point.
Okay, so he wants to leave you with 10.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Now, wait a minute, I'm a little confused here. They took out a loan for you when you were younger. What was the loan for?
Basically, they took out a plus loan. At the time, my mom and my dad were separated, so I say he made this decision. He took out a plus loan on the understanding that it was effectively my loan. He would pay the plus loan, but I would pay him.
Did you need a loan?
Yes and no. I needed some kind of loan for the school I was going to at the time, but I was also financially irresponsible at that time and spending more than I needed to spend and things.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking all these questions here, Josh, is I'm trying to get a sense of you wanted this loan to be taken out, and because you were young and irresponsible, your dad took it out, and you're saying now you've been paying it back ever so slowly, and you said it has since cost me a lot more than the loan. Are you talking interest?
No. No. When I say my parents caused a major financial loss, that's a separate issue.
Oh.
Yeah, so when I was 16, I grew up in Washington State. It has a program called Running Start. And had my parents allowed me to take advantage of the Running Start program, the first 2 years of my college would have been free anyways.
You're saying they didn't?
So, yeah, they forbade that.
Okay.
And I talked to my dad at the time, and I talked to my dad in this phone call recently, and he seemed open to the possibility that he got that decision wrong. But anyways, we haven't even gotten to my true question, which is,
oh boy,
after this.
Well, here's what let me summarize here, Josh. When I'm trying to pick up the details here, tying them together. You wanted to go to college early. They said no. You said if I would have gone to college early, I would have saved a bunch of money, and I wouldn't have had to take out $24,000 loan that Dad took out for me. Okay. Now, because of that, I'm paying back this loan. Well, had they let me go to college, I wouldn't have this loan to pay back. So, therefore, I think it's only right that they just forget the loan. Your dad said, no, I'll go halvesies with you. Now, does that grab your question?
No, he never consulted with my mom. I found this out not by fishing around, but just by accident. He never even brought up my request to my mom. He made this decision unilaterally. Okay. And my question is, do I forward this question to my mom?
The forgiveness of the loan?
Yes.
Well, whose name is the loan in?
Presumably my dad's. They were separated. They weren't divorced. I don't know how these things work.
I don't know how they work. Well, if it's in your dad's name, he can just simply say, no, she has no say in this. Especially if they're divorced and they're not exactly on the most amicable terms.
No, they're back together again. I think they have a very dysfunctional relationship, but they are back together.
Right. Well, just from what little you've told me, it would seem I'd take that deal. Because I don't think the only way you're going to get better is to somehow get your mom to push on your dad. And depending on how dysfunctional their relationship is, I don't know how much conflict that's going to create. And I don't know if he's going to just dig his heels in and say, no, I took out the loan. And then he could also say, the reason I didn't let him go to college, and this is what I think he would say, Josh, the reason I didn't let him go to college is because of what you said at the beginning of this call, which was I was pretty irresponsible. And your dad's thinking, no way am I going to let this kid go to college at 16. That'd be my guess. Would that be yours?
No, there were some kind of psychic shifts at various points in my life. If he would have used, he's actually told me that his reasoning, and it was somewhat different. I mean, responsibility is such a broad umbrella, you could put it that way, but it would have been a different kind of irresponsibility.
Okay. Well, basically, he just didn't trust you in college. He just didn't think it was a good move.
Yeah, he didn't trust me. Yeah.
So he made a judgment, and you're saying, well, time has shown his judgment wrong because I got saddled with a $24,000 loan that if he would have let me go, I wouldn't have the $24,000 loan. But here's where you're thinking may be wrong, Josh, and that is it could very well have been you would have blown that first year of college because you were too immature to navigate it. So maybe you could reframe the way you look at this and say, well, I'll tell you what. The cost of the money is true. I'm going to assume you graduated from college?
Yes.
Okay. So, in fact, I didn't blow my college career. However much I disagree with my dad looking back, it turned out for the best. I graduated from college because I was a little older when I started college. I was a little more mature, a little more responsible, and I made it through college. So he's saying, okay, son, I'll knock $10,000 off it. I think that's a pretty good deal, really. If you pay him, say you pay him $150 a month, okay, that's $1,800 a year. That's roughly just under 6 years to pay him back. And he may at some point just say, you know what, Josh, forget it. Forget it. You've paid back another $4,000. Just forget it. Good.
All right, Doctor. I respect you, and I...
Yeah, you don't have to listen to me, Josh. This is your decision, okay? I mean, you can go back to your dad and say, hey, I'm going to negotiate with Mom. You could do that, but just brace yourself because you can't know what the results would be of that one. That's the thing. He may get so mad he'll say, oh, gone behind my back, trying to undercut me? Well, forget it. I retract my deal. Could. Only you know your dad's personality.
Right.
All right, my friend. Well, I didn't throw any humor in there because we were talking money, you know. But I'll try next time. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for the call, man. 877-573-7825. Got some nice calls up there. This is Dr. Ray. I will not say I will be right back. I will not say don't go away. I will not say momentarily we will rejoin you. No. That is what they call just filler talk. That's all it is, just filler talk. What will I say? How about I'm going to take a break. I hope to be back in time after going to the bathroom. I think that's honest, transparent, like a psychologist. I got a rule on the program that if you disagree with me, You jumped the line. Had a call her who not only disagreed with me, but is actually just saying, get lost. She called and she said, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. That doesn't bother me so much. My wife doesn't listen to me anymore. However, she said, I'm not going to listen to you anymore because you're a Republican Catholic. And you're divisive. The times that any kind of politics have come up on the show, it has been because there's been an overlap between certain moral perspectives between the two parties. One's very clear that the Democratic Party is very, very, very pro-abortion, more so than any party has ever been up to this point. That's just a fact. I'm just stating facts. Matter of fact, they ran on that as an issue. So if you say, well, that's certainly not, as a Catholic, anything I can support, then automatically you either say, I don't vote, or you say, is the other party a little more pro-life? And as our Pope says, you vote for, quote-unquote, the lesser of two evils. That's what the Pope says. It's interesting, too, because political parties essentially have moral stances. If you look at their platforms, they have moral stances. And as Catholics, we definitely have to take those moral stances into account. The life issue is absolutely paramount. If you can say it's okay to kill a baby, even as it is being born, okay? That's where that particular platform is. Then you can't call somebody a Republican Catholic divisive because they're saying, no, I gotta put my lot in with the church. Divisive. It's an interesting word, is it not? If one has standards and someone doesn't agree with those standards, is that divisive? If one says, I don't necessarily believe that a male, born male, with XY chromosomes in his trillions and trillions and trillions of cells, can declare himself a female just on the basis of declaring it, and he can totally co-opt biology. Now, see, scientifically, that's not possible. But ideologically, it is. So if one says, well, I don't particularly see how that goes, is that divisive? Is it divisive to say, I'm not going to go along with the culture's new morality? Is that divisive? The culture says you really shouldn't have children because the earth is going to just collapse because we're in the middle of climate change. It's going to destroy everything. Read a very profound research article recently. Talked about how the birth dearth, virtually every single wealthy country in the world now has a negative birth rate. South Korea is the worst, 0.7. You need 2.1 just to stay even. The U.S. is below that now. We're 1.6. You can't replace yourself. And when you can't replace yourself, you get older. And when you get older, you don't have the youth to do the things that keep a society going. Is that divisive? Yeah, it's a code word. It's a code word that means don't have your own opinion or belief or even cite, quote, the science. Eric from Iowa. How are you, bud?
Dr. Grundy. Sorry, I'm outside and I'm changing phones in my hands.
Oh, you don't have to be sorry for being outside.
Well, it's a beautiful day, right? It is, at least in Idaho.
How cold?
Like, I don't have the thermometer in front of me, but I'm going to guess probably I'm going to guess like maybe 35, mid-30s.
Oh, it's not too bad.
I wear long johns during the wintertime, so I'm always warm. I don't spend enough time outside to tell you. But it's beautiful.
You know, Eric, I haven't yet seen it, but I got to believe somewhere there's a whole bunch of guys named John who really don't like underwear named after them? I don't know. They haven't had that movement yet, but I got to figure it's coming.
Well, it's weird how they can never. Anyway, it's just weird world we live in. Like, and I've got 4 kids. 3 of them are young ladies, and yeah, I mean it's not an easy thing, but it's not supposed to be easy. We're not created for comfort, right?
You've got a very mature 11-year-old.
I do. I have an incredibly she's emotionally mature. Academically, she does really well. We've talked her into gifted and talented here in Idaho. Yeah. And she's regretting it because she's very socially aware, especially for an 11-year-old. And
what's she aware of?
Just everything. Like, for example, all my kids, I don't hide, from the very, basically kindergarten and first grade. I don't go into the grisly details, obviously, but they know what abortion is. They know what birth control is. They know what euthanasia is. All the societal, quote-unquote, norms, that they know why those are wrong.
And she's afraid that if she gets into discussions with her friends, it's going to get ugly.
She is. I don't care because I know she's I know we're not as Catholics, we're not supposed to be afraid of that. And like I said, she's young and she doesn't eat lunch with anybody because she doesn't want to get in fights. And
so you think that's her only option?
That's her option.
It's go or no go. If she's mostly mature, can you convince her, or at least try to persuade her, that she can be a light to some of these kids? Because when they tell her that they think A, B, C, D, and E morally is just fine, she could, rather than dispute them, get them to explain why they think that way.
Okay. And I honestly didn't even think of that.
And what she'll find out is they can't really defend how they think because they're just uttering cliches.
Exactly.
You could challenge her. You could say, "I'll tell you what, honey." Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. You don't, honey. You don't argue with them. You're not going to argue with them. You're going to be perplexed. You're going to be confused. You're going to say, "So, well, is it a baby?" Well, we don't know when it's a baby. Well, can you guess? Or if you don't know, that kind of thing. Get them to explain. Look at it as, honey, you're gifted, and most 11-year-olds are not thinking very deeply about this stuff. And maybe
echoing their parents.
Yeah, and maybe you can throw down some seeds. You're not arguing with them. She's not arguing with them.
Right. She's asking questions.
Yeah. Apparently she's already had some of this happen because she's saying, I don't want to get any fights with him. Well, it already has happened.
Right.
When you say, should I be worried about it? I only got about 20 seconds here, Eric. I wouldn't be worried about it at all as long as she seems to be fairly content, very well adjusted. You don't see any signs that this is one miserably discontented little girl who feels socially isolated, that in fact she's made a decision and you can show her that she can do something different. It's interesting, too, with Eric's call there. It is a parallel to my opening monologue, which he describes his girl as mature for her age, thoughtful probably, and she has some well-thought-out reasons behind the morals that her parents have said. Now, some would argue, oh, no, she's just repeating her parents. Those other girls, if they're repeating their parents, then she's repeating her parents. Well, let's see who can make the better argument. And she doesn't want to argue, but let's see who can make the better reasoning behind their position. And so Eric was a little worried that in fact, her not wanting to get into these altercations, verbal altercations with her friends, might be a sign of something more serious. It's happening a lot in parenting these days. Instead of looking at it like my little daughter doesn't want to sit around these kids because she doesn't want to argue with them. Well, that's not normal, Dr. Ray. Well, yes and no. The reason she doesn't want to is rather unusual. Not wanting to be around them because she's socially anxious, or she's fearful, or she's terribly backward. Okay, that could be a more broad-based problem. But if that's her only rationale, then what we can do is we can help her to see that given the way she thinks about things, that she can let's do a little counseling to her friends. Just sort of try to understand what's going on in their head. And I think she'll find that a lot of them can't really give a good case for why they think the way they do. Kim, calling from Indiana. Hi, Kim.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes'm.
Awesome. So, yeah.
I said yes'm, you said awesome. That's very good.
Okay, I have a 17-year-old son. He's a great kid, top of his class. And he is involved in the church. He serves every 8 o'clock Sunday morning mass. So he's very devoted. But I cannot get him to want or be interested in going to this weekend retreat. It's called Teens Encounter Christ. And I don't know what to do. My husband says if I, make him go, I'm going to push him away.
See, wait a minute. Stop right there. Another example. If I make a parenting decision and it's wrong, it's going to have really bad effects, right? Okay.
Right. I didn't say that's what I think.
That's what your husband thinks. Yeah, I got it. When will your son, is he a senior or junior?
He's a junior.
Junior.
And he'll be 18 in April. So.
And he serves Mass.
Yes.
And from all outward appearances, you can tell he loves the faith.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So why would you think that if he's resistant to this retreat, why would you think that would boost his religious sensibilities?
I don't think it would lose his religious sensibilities. I'm just trying to give him opportunities in meeting other people outside of, his little circle, engaging with people, that go to these retreats and making new friends. Just, maybe kind of stepping out of his comfort zone a little bit in a good way. It's not like I'm sending him to a AC/DC concert or, something like that. And so I just didn't know and maybe I shouldn't, do more than just encourage him. I kind of know he'll just say, nah, I don't think I really want to. And then that'll be the end of it. So
as a mom,
I just didn't know what the right thing is to do.
Well, now, first thing you're going to do, the right thing is to get rid of this idea that there's a right thing to do. Okay. As a mom, of course, you can say, I want you to go to that. I'm going to insist you go to that. You can do that. You can do that. But you can also say, all right, got a good kid here, loves the Lord. He doesn't want to go. For whatever the reason, this is not his thing. This is my thing for him, which would, in my opinion, be beneficial, and his view of it might be, and I think if you sat down and talked with him, Kim, he'd probably give you his reasons for not wanting to go. All right? He probably would.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, you can ask him. Say, okay, you don't want to go. Why? Why don't you want to go? But here's something I don't think you've considered. When my son was 17 and he was a senior, he went to one of these. I have to be delicate about this. Some of them are more psychological than they are religious.
Okay.
My son had a total distaste for the experience because it turned out to be an awful lot of emotional venting by the kids. And when my son got up and basically said, my life is content, I love my parents, they love me, the response was not, oh, isn't that great, good for you. The response was, you're denying. Everybody has problems, especially at this age. So what I'm saying, Kim, is you don't know what your son is going to confront in a lot of these encounter groups. Some of them are good, and some of them are just psychology, semi-voyeurism with religion painted over top.
Right. No, I see that point. I never thought about it that way, so...
Yeah. So yeah. If it were me, and I don't know your situation, but from what you're describing in your young man, if he's a faithful young man, I wouldn't pile this on top of it. I might say something like, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You don't have to go, but here's a book I want you to read. And then go get something like Handbook of Catholic Apologetics, some of these great, wonderful books that explain the faith and offer reasons and objective evidence for why our faith is so reasonable. Maybe you could tell them, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to shroud.com on the computer.
Okay.
And I want you to take in all the scientific evidence that pretty much establishes that the shroud was indeed the burial cloth of Christ.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because I've not looked at it on that end of it. You're right. I kind of think of it in terms of what I want, or boy, I wish I would have done that when I was his age. I probably would have turned out way better,
One of the things about young men, Father Spitzer points this out, young men are coming to faith more than young women. And one of the reasons that Father Spitzer cites is that the young men are more likely to want evidence and reason and logic. You, as a female, are saying, what appeals to me is the spiritual aspect of it, the devotional aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it. It may not be where your son is. His attitude may be, Mom, I don't want to go there. Just kind of sit there and sit around and talk and pray for 12 hours. That's not for me. But he may be very fascinated by the good stuff that's out there regarding our faith.
Okay.
A lot of good stuff.
No, that's some good stuff. I appreciate it.
I'll tell you what you can do. You can get Father Spitzer's book, and I got to get this title right. I think it's Science, Jesus, and Miracles, or it's his most recent book, and it can be very heavy, but if your son's a bright guy, he can select certain chapters. There's a chapter on the Shroud. There's a chapter on Eucharistic miracles. There is a chapter on Fatima. There's a chapter on Lourdes. And it just cites massive mounds of scientific evidence that is inexplicably attached to these various, I think, displays of God saying, "Here, you want some signs? Here's some signs."
Right.
So,
and you said it was Father. Say that again.
Robert Spitzer.
Spitzer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will check that out. And good ideas, because he's not a big reader being forced on it. He's, he reads for what he has to. But he is into a lot of scientific and, learning about things. And like I said, he is spiritual and knows a lot about the religion and the history and things. So that might be something he would kind of flip through. I think that's a good idea.
All righty. Thanks, Kim.
Talk
to you. All righty. Bye. Oh, we've got one more segment if you want to try to jump in here. Got room for you. 877-573-7825.
When your children consider going to college, where are you going to find a place that will prepare them for the future and build on the foundation that you've laid? The answer? Ave Maria University. With an authentically Catholic curriculum including 35 majors, AMU prepares students to take on the world.
I've seen the difference in my son since he's been at Ave Maria. He's happy, he's excited about what he's going to do with his degree, and he's living his faith.
Learn more at avemaria.edu. That's avemaria.edu. Fire on the Earth's Peter Herbeck.
The battle is fierce in the church today. The Lord's totally in charge and calls us to participate in His mission. But our nation itself is convulsing. There's just massive division and struggle and problems that are going on. There's a lot of stuff that's, I think, profoundly offensive to God. And we as a people can make a huge difference simply by living differently in these days. So Jesus said, if you want to become my disciple, my follower, you must deny yourself. To deny yourself is to deny the capacity in us to just simply say, I'm my own master, I'm my own maker. Instead, it's a heart change. It's a directional change. And say, now, the life I now live, I'm living by faith in the Son of God. I want what He wants. And second, take up your cross daily. The cross isn't just simply, oh, I got a headache today. The real cross is standing against, in love, in courage, the resistance of the world, of political systems, of social systems and social networks and things that literally stand against God and the will of God and God's plan. And if you said, yes, Lord, I want to follow you, I'm putting you first, I want to deny myself, pick up my cross, and I want to come after you because I want to seek to please you in all my life.
Peter Herbeck spreads Fire on the Earth, weekday mornings at 6:30 and again at 11:45 on Ave Maria Radio.
Well, all done. Looks like with the calls. I have, where's that? Where I got to congratulate. Hold on a second. We have a new station from Iowa Catholic. I got to congratulate them. Hold on a second. Let me find out where they are. See this. Okay. I got to let's see where Tom has sent me this. Tom Price. Family events for this week. Here we go. Another station. Pretty cool. Newest member. EWTN family. Iowa Catholic Radio's newest signal. KCSL, that's 89.9 FM. They're broadcasting from Spencer, Iowa, serving the Iowa Great Lakes region, as well as creeping into southern Minnesota. That's pretty cool. Congratulations to Matt. Welcome. Matt called me about some stuff earlier, and the great team at Iowa Catholic, from all of us here at EWTN. Keep adding the stations. When I started doing this program, I think there were about 20 stations, something like that. When Teresa Tomeo started, Marconi was just about ready to invent radio. Very close, very close. But there was 20 when I started, and now there's 500 plus around the world, 400 plus here domestically, as well as all the ways, and in some respects, perhaps probably just as broad a listening audience through the streaming, through the apps, through Sirius Channel 130. Just a boatload of them. Just a boatload of them. So, I got about 2 minutes. I can't really do much more here other than just ramble on until the end of the program. I want to thank Eric Dumont, who right now is feeling a little under the weather. So, Eric, hope you feel better. He's the call screamer. That's who you talk to when you first call in. Andrew Kuchek, he is the producer man. And you can say man, because he is a man. He says he's a man, so I guess that makes him a man. Producer man, not his XY chromosome, but because he said so. That's what it is. I say that I'm a 6'6" wide receiver with 4.2 speed. That's what I say. Reality proves me wrong. But we don't need to pay attention to reality anymore. Not in the culture we're in. So, I remember growing up as a psychologist that reality was really emphasized. You wanted to bring people's perception as much in line with reality as you could. That's why when you had an anorexic client who was 71 pounds and thought she was big and fat, you had to work with her. You couldn't just simply say, well, if that's who you think you are, that's wonderful. No, you tried to bring her into line with reality as much as you could. So wouldn't it be great if I just told my wife, yeah, honey, I'm picturing myself an unmarried man, but I'll still live here with you. Uh-huh. How would that go over? All right, getting close to the end. By the way, Eventbrite, B-R-I-T-E, is where you go to sign up. If you'd like to be part of the audience at Ave Maria University down in Florida. They're trying to get a station down there, but I don't think they'll have one by the time I get there. We're taping the TV show Living Right with Dr. Ray. It's the last 4 programs of season 14. And then those will be edited through the whole process and then put on the air sometime in the next year. They will be taped, and that's really nice because that takes the pressure off of me. Because if I screw up, we just simply say, Ray, let's do that one again. That's nice. Takes all of the nervousness out of it. Thank you so very much for joining me. You have one eternal walk. Everything else ends. One walk. Pay close attention to it. Walk with God.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.